For those with good taste.
Welcome back, Tasties and Tastettes, to another episode of FTWGT Weekly. It's your boy Lenny, joined again, as always, producer extraordinaire, Dante.
What up?
D. Thrizzle. D. Thrice. D. Obi Trice. No gimmicks. And if you want no gimmicks on your podcast, make sure to drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe on the podcast. Let's go, Dante. Let's get into it.
Let's get it popping.
Thoughts on Pimp My Ride?
It's your boy X to the Z Exhibit, and I'm here to pimp your ride. Yeah, nah, it's cool.
You're a car enthusiast. You're not a bigger fan?
I just think, like, the shit they were doing in cars was, like, intriguing back then, but, like, that show can stay in the past.
There's a big, like, I feel like TikTok's a subculture now of people just being, like, how ridiculous that show was. So either just laughing at, like, the different stuff they did to people's cars.
Yeah.
Or, like, yeah, the fact that they didn't actually fix any of the mechanical aspects of people's vehicles. So they got given shit boxes and they just added a bunch of cosmetic stuff that, like, nobody could use.
Yeah.
But I saw a TikTok the other day of somebody in Massachusetts, funny enough, I think it was. They bought, like, one of the vans that was worked on Pimp My Ride, and they rehabbed it. Got it going.
Interesting.
Would you ever drive one of those?
No.
No?
No.
No, you're not into a rehab of something, you know, putting a new gloss of paint on an old puppy.
Puppy?
I don't know.
That was your choice of words?
I
Puppy?
guess. I don't know.
No, honestly, I just feel like those, like, cars are so ridiculous and over the top. Like, what do I need a chandelier in my car for? Like, I think there was one where they did, like, a pool table in the bed of a pickup truck. Like, that seems kind of cool, but, like,
They also did, like, a hot tub in the back of back of a van.
they did do that. Is that the van you're talking about?
No, but I don't think it was.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember which one. This one I think had, like, I don't know if the guy was like a DJ or something like that, but had, like, a crazy setup. There was one that I saw that had a it was essentially just like easy bake ovens, but they had, like, a whole, like, lunch, like, thing where you could, like, do their, like a deli sandwich setup in their trunk.
The fuck? Like,
Yeah, I think I saw one that was like
not a food truck.
I think I saw, like, a soft serve system in the back of one of them too, and I'm like, well, that stuff gets hot. Like,
yeah.
that's just melting back there. It's disgusting. It's like disgusting. But you're not into, like, a glossy new coat of paint on the same product.
I mean, in just the terms of that phrase, yeah, sure.
All right. So what are your thoughts on the Switch 2?
Fucking segue. I hate you so much.
Still got it.
I mean, yeah. We definitely just watched a recap video about it, and aside from it being slightly bigger, I have no idea what's really the big allure to this thing.
So there's a couple things I want to talk about here, and I want to get out in front of something.
Okay.
Not a Nintendo guy.
I mean, I don't think they're meant for us. I think they're targeted towards a younger audience.
That's not true. But I'll continue on. I proceed.
Okay.
I was a Nintendo person when I was a child. Funny enough, right? That was my first console. That's what got me into video games. I loved it. Shortly after that, I got a PlayStation though. Like, cause like when we were kids, or at least when I'm a little older, but like when I was a kid, it was Nintendo or Sega. You were one or the other.
So I was Super Nintendo at my mom's house, Sega Genesis at my dad's house.
Yeah, but generally back then you weren't a two system household, I guess is my, like, right? Like when we, like, kids now, you could have an Xbox and a PlayStation. It is what it is. Like for the better part of like 10, 15 years now, I don't think it's mattered if you've had both consoles. But when they were first rolling out, you were one way or the other, right? And then even right after that, to that point, I got a PlayStation. I never really had an Xbox until I got old enough to buy myself an Xbox. But while I was like reliant on somebody else buying it for me, I was a PlayStation guy. So I haven't really been into it for a very long time, and I've tried getting into it. I'm sure you've probably tried getting it into it. I've owned a 3DS. I had a Wii. The Wii. Let's go through our fondness.
I had a Wii. Okay, I was trying to remember when my last foray of
Yeah.
Nintendo was.
I loved it when I was a kid. Mario. Was OG Red Dead on, or something like that on? So it wasn't Red Dead maybe, but there was like this shooter game that you basically just had the cursor on the screen and you had to move the cursor onto the different things that you wanted to shoot. So like it was first person, but it wasn't like you had the gun on the screen. It was just the cursor as like a trigger or a crosshair rather.
Yeah.
But it was like a
I get what you're describing, but it's
you would walk into like an old Splatoon or something like that, and there would just be dudes you'd have like popping up in like a Western scenario, and you'd have to shoot them. Either way, I remember those games when I was a kid. Then I remember when I was in high school, the Wii. I remember Wii Sports like in high school.
Yeah,
was awesome. Like going to your buddy's house and just doing like running doubles on tennis or like bowling, archery, whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah.
So a lot, but like, so then I go further. I get to like 20 years old, 20 to 25, probably closer to 25. The Switch initial comes out, the first one, right? So I didn't do any of their handhelds. I wasn't a real big handheld person. Even GameCube, like, were you a GameCube guy?
My brother had a GameCube.
I guess we didn't even mention, like, N64 was dope, actually. I don't want to poo-poo anything. N64 was actually fire, yeah. Yeah, it was.
But I think at like a certain point, like, once my brother reached a certain age, we became like a 2-console household because like I would get one console, my brother would get the other, kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. That I was, I guess, too, like, lived experience. I was an only child. But I definitely remember like getting. I guess what I'm saying in my head is like there was the one you got first, and then a few years went by, maybe, or a couple years went by, and you were able to get like. At least I was able to be like, hey, I want like an N64 as well or something like that. And then you have both of them in your house, you know? But here's the one thing I'll give Nintendo credit for, and it carries all the way up till now into the Switch. They've always been ahead of the curve on trying unique things with their hardware to try and set themselves apart.
I'd say the first foray of that was probably the N64 with the weird controller
so
layout,
they revolutionized shooter games, really. They were the first game to introduce having a dedicated trigger for shooting games. And you think about every single controller that's come since that pretty much has been constructed with that in mind. So yeah, like you get along to like the 3DS having 2 screens on it, like a handheld with 2 screens was weird. I even go back to my fucking GameCube and getting the attachment that went on that made it 3D.
What?
So maybe it wasn't 3D, it was magnified. So it was just like attachment you clipped onto it and it folded out on the sides and had speakers. And it had a screen that magnified and made your GameCube, your Game Boy screen bigger.
Oh.
Kind of sick.
There was actually a lot of accessories and attachments for those Game Boys back in the day.
Yeah, remember link cables? Yeah. like swapping Pokemon?
I remember like the original like Game Boys weren't even backlit. So I remember having like a little like backlight thing that plugged into the reading light that plugged into the charging port so you could play it in the dark.
Yeah. And so, like, I guess, like, to expedite some of the thought, also, yeah, like, the Perfect Dark version, was it Perfect Dark that was the neon, the transparent purple, was it?
Oh, that one was sick. I don't know what they called that color, though.
Either way, the thing I think that I've always appreciated about Nintendo is that they've been more courageous or daring. You get to, like, the Wii U integrate, and the Wii U in the original Wii really got us to where the Switch is today.
I actually forgot the Wii U was even a thing.
Yeah, but the Wii U was the Switch originally. It was a home-based console that you could play handheld on like on a thing, but you couldn't leave the house with it.
Okay. Huh.
But you remember the main controller?
I'm trying to picture the Wii U. I don't think I remember the Wii U at all.
Yeah, so the main controller had a big screen in the middle of it, and you could play parts of the game on it. Like you can control parts of the game on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate they've always tried to innovate and push ahead. I do think looking at the Switch 2 that just got announced, I don't see much like innovation. It seems like they're looking more at the hardware, and I think this will get me to where I get to. I think I've sounded like I'm a fan, and I initially said at the beginning of this, I'm not. I think as an older consumer, the Switch 2 is highlighting again some of the things that I don't like about Nintendo.
Like?
We talk about current climate in movies, like relative to what we talk about on the podcast now. And we talk a lot about nostalgia and how it's relied on far too heavily in Hollywood now. I look at Nintendo as a company that's not really built necessarily for kids, but it's built
very heavily on like Mario.
An aesthetic that was built when we were kids, but they're still getting people our age are still a lot of what's buying it.
I get you.
You even said, "Oh, I didn't even realize Amiibos were a thing." Well, it's a company that's also built heavily on collectible shit and stuff like that. So Amiibos 100% is still a thing because there's a lot of money to be made in those small action figures. That another thing that Nintendo, this is a compliment to them, the thing that I've appreciated the most as a person who's been in a field of selling it for a very long time, they believe in supply and demand better than any other company, I think. Like they are experts. This got, do you know, there was an original release date and it got pushed back. I don't know when it got pushed back to.
So I think the current release date is June 5th.
So it was about to go on pre-sales were about to start this week. And I think they got pushed back. But they're an expert at not over-releasing their product, making it hard to get, because then their customer base, every time they drop their products, lines up to the tens of hundreds outside of a building to get it, right? You know? Which is different than any other company can really do any longer. Like, it's crazy. Pokemon and Amiibo can still draw that type of, I think, crowd or a public for it. But yeah, with that being said, I look at something like the Switch 2 and I'm like, well, I don't really see much of an evolution to what they've done with the OLED version. It's about the same size screen, but you're not getting an OLED screen with the new version. You're just getting a 4K display, right?
It's so they can sell an OLED version later,
I'd imagine. Though the coolest, unless I'm missing any, Dante, one of the cooler changes was the magnetic controllers. I thought that was a...
Oh, because they used to slide in before, right?
Yeah, I think making the magnetics a cool addition.
It's definitely
ease of
better.
use and quality of
more
life.
Convenient.
Yeah, like for the mechanics.
I guess now that you mentioned that, though, right? Like, they used to slide in, and that was what secured them in. Now I'm relying on magnetics to hold it
But
in
it
there.
says there's still a release switch. So once they magnetize, there's a locking mechanism, I think. And that's where you hold the thing to release it from that and pull it away.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because that was my initial question with the magnets, was like, how are you going to get them to stay on consistently? But yeah, they lock on. I know they mentioned there was speakers were improved, but what was... I feel like maybe there was one other improvement that we both...
2 USB-C ports.
Yes, that was the one other physical. And it's a very minor change that I think... on its surface is like, who cares? But
as far as like a convenience factor, right? Like, fine, like, sure, I guess there's reasons why you would want it on the top or the bottom, right? But like, I don't know, just to like highlight it as a feature in like that video they did. Like, I don't know.
What was the very first attachment they showed? They only showed one attachment. What was it?
It was a camera.
Why would they do that?
What do you mean? Why would they do that?
What audience are they selling that feature to? To me, it's the streaming crowd.
Oh, you think so?
Why else would you show me
Okay.
Oh, Dante, can we use our brains for 2 seconds here? Why else would they show us a web camera if it wasn't for streaming? What else is it there for?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So to me, it's like, hey, we are a console that can still be utilized for this.
I just feel like, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I feel like Nintendo has like a lot of motion based like gaming stuff, and so that's what it was in my head as far as what the camera was for, was like maybe you're doing like Just Dance or something. I don't fucking know.
No, I think to me it's on the go streaming, right?
Okay.
It's the capability, because it's like that mode's not the mode where you're playing it on your TV. They're showing you
like on the go
when you're on your go.
Like,
so it's like,
mode,
hey, you could be anywhere, and essentially if you have an internet connection, you can drop this down and start streaming a game on our consoles. And like some of their games, I think they're trying with the more powerful console to get into, a broader base of games. Because I think that's the reason they were built so much for kids for so long, is that they built their consoles on energy efficiency and like a certain aesthetic of their games that didn't rely as heavily on graphics, right?
Yeah.
And it kept their consoles more affordable, more family friendly, things like that.
Yeah.
And they're built more on accessories, like you were mentioning. Like, they have a million different variations of controllers you can buy for their consoles, right? Like, everything else.
That's one big question I have is, do the Joy-Cons still suck? Because I know that was one of the biggest things, like frustrations with the original Switch, is the Joy-Cons are garbage and they get the worst stick drift of any other controller out there.
Yeah, so here's, did you own a Switch? No. So my personal experience with the Switch, I was saying, like, I got into my 20s. I was living with my friends, and to me, the Switch was like the perfect console to live when I was like mid 20s, to like live with friends, because like people come over, you're looking for a game that like 3 or 4 people can like mess around with for 2 hours, and like you don't have to pay like heavy attention and be like super invested, but it can get a little competitive and like get the energy going, right? Like the Switch is like the perfect party console for that. My issue became, once I no longer lived with people and had people coming over my house consistently to play it, they're
What
no
was the
longer.
point for you?
I found myself going on like the eShop on Nintendo and scrolling through games. In the negative, the shitty part of it is, and the thing I don't like about Nintendo is that those titles that we all love for nostalgia reasons, they hold hostage at a price of $60 or $50 to where if I want to play the console by myself and I want to dip back into my toe back into a Pokemon game or a Zelda game or a Mario game that was from my childhood,
even the old ones,
and that I'm interested in, yes, most of these games are still being charged at a premium. Like you could go buy that Super Mario U game that came out literally on the Wii U 10 years ago now, 15 years ago, is still at full price on their eShop.
Yeah, that's
like
fucked.
that stuff's criminal. So yeah, I like it. I'm not. If I have to pay for a AAA title and a premium title at this point, if I have as many options as I do between PC, the different consoles, I'm gonna spend my $60 on something that is more aesthetically pleasing, that it does have more depth, that is a little bit more adult. And I think that that's where it's not. When you say it's not built for us, I do think an adult audience is what's driving a lot of the revenue that they make. Just from what I see with my own eyes, at least, like they still do have a large adult.
I still think
fan
it's also
base.
like the most convenient console to buy for a child.
Well, it's the first one you'd recommend. If I have somebody coming in saying, like the first thing, it's like, hey, I want to get a console for my child. The first thing you should be asking them is how old they are, right? Because if they're 10 or under, you're probably not pushing too heavily on an Xbox or a PlayStation. You're going to be gearing it a little towards, because it is a great bridge console. It teaches you the fundamentals of playing games and everything. But going further into the nostalgia merchant, we watched a video on 24 new games that are announced for this console. How many of them were new?
I mean, there was a lot that just said like remastered or like switched to edition.
To my recollection, it was all but one. And it was the first thing they showed us Mario Kart.
Well, there was a few other ones that just like had names we'll never remember.
But I'm pretty sure they said they were all remasters still.
Really?
Like almost every single game they showed us was a Street Fighter 6 Year 1 and Year 2 edition, because that game's been out for 4 years, dude. Cyberpunk 2027. People act like Cyberpunk, and this is not just Switch related, this is everything related. People act like Cyberpunk's like a relatively new game, but it seems like that, or it's treated like that because it was so poorly launched,
optimized,
and then took 5 years for them to make the game playable. It's kind of like, what was Watch Dogs? I feel like was a similar game to that.
Issue with Watch Dogs? I don't think so.
I don't think anybody liked Watch Dogs when it came out, and then they fixed most of their issues because like games like that, The Division comes to mind as another one where like there's like it's so predicated on the online experience, and if you don't launch with a really full list of options that you can do online, those games can get very old very quickly, right? Like, so I don't know. Like again, getting back to Nintendo, I guess. Really, outside of Mario Kart, which isn't an original idea, it's just a new version of that game, which I appreciate and I have no interest. Like they should keep pumping out Mario Kart and Mario Party forever. Like those games should always have a place.
Mario parties?
Yes, yeah, they do.
Okay.
I don't know when recently they had one actually. But then it's like, okay, here's a remaster of Zelda. Again, like here's Civ 6, like Civ 7, whatever. But like I don't know, like none of it is new. None of it feels fresh. So you have a 4K console, but you're not pushing anything other than, this is actually a gripe I have in general, maybe with a lot of games right now too, because how many ports of The Last of Us can I get? Like how many new versions of The Last of Us 1 and 2 can somebody put out?
Because didn't they just release The Last of Us 2 remaster for PC?
No, so the port's finally coming to PC of Last of Us 2.
Okay.
So they had the PS4 edition, then they had a PS5 edition, then they went and did the Last of Us 1 PS5 edition, like the HD remaster, then a PS5 edition, then I think there's still one more PlayStation version of The Last of Us coming out too.
Oh,
I think I read that. It's just insane. So like how many remasters and remakes, and I appreciate it at some point because like the Resident Evil ones have been done very well and I've enjoyed them a lot. I'm sure there's other ones. I've got Metal Gear Solid. Like I've been waiting for the third game. It's been announced for like 2 years now, and I'm just like patiently waiting for it to come out.
I'm trying to remember the last time I played like a remastered title that I've also played the original.
Call of Duty.
What do you mean?
Remember when they did? Was it 4? they re-released like the
Oh yeah, you're right. They did like the like
Modern
first
Warfare
like
2
they
like
did like a pack of
remaster.
them, right?
Yeah,
It was like
yeah,
the first like 4 or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I also like Uncharted would be one that's had re-releases recently. Tomb Raider got a re-release, but you know what? The other thing I don't actually like about I don't really like remasters so much personally. I like a rebuilt game, and I think that that's the difference between what Resident Evil has done and what Metal Gear Solid's doing, and why it's taking so long. Is they're not just repainting the same game.
Yeah, it's
They're
not like just throwing a shaders pack on it. Like
no, they're
actually,
like actually rebuilding the whole thing. So you're getting fresh lighting, fresh visuals. They can add stuff to it and things like that. Like that's what I want to see happen. But like with most of the stuff that we saw on the Switch, it doesn't feel like that's the case.
No, I mean like they tell you about the new graphical ability of this console, and then like not a single one of those games is pushing that.
Yeah, like well.
Maybe like 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like Yakuza or whatever else they showed.
There's definitely potential for some of them to maybe push it more than others. And like I guess it's not to say that I don't look at the games that they put out in that 24 games that we saw that they announced as launch titles and say, hey, none of those were interesting. And that's not my gripe. But none of them were new. Like none of that like I guess like let's give it some credit and let's talk about it really quick. Mario Kart looks pretty awesome.
Pretty cool, yeah. No, like I'd play that.
So 2 things. Did you see? This is not. We'll get back to Mario, but it's because it reminds me of this. So the new Mario is open world, and it reminded me. Well, my initial thought was, is this going to be like Forza Horizons? So is that's coming to PlayStation? Is that true now?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's pre-order right now on PlayStation.
Forza's been an Xbox exclusive since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pre-order right now on PlayStation for Forza. Because funny enough, I had somebody come in yesterday and buy it on Xbox at full price, which I thought was insane because the game again is not new. So it's like paid like $60, but I would have price matched it. But then I went on my PlayStation, and I've been in a habit of checking the sales on the PlayStation Store because they've been really good for the spring recently. Yeah. So I was like, oh, let's see if any of the sales have changed like week over week. I have a couple days off. Let's see if there's anything I can play. And the very first thing on the top was Forza, and I was like, well, that must have been why that guy came in asking me about Forza. So Mario Kart going the open world direction. Do you think as a car enthusiast, a car game specifically enthusiast, does this idea and what you saw thus far on the game, does that draw in more than a casual gaming, like race gaming fan? No.
Mario Kart is still only ever going to be a casual gaming kind of thing. I think what this does though is, for me, Mario Kart was always a game that was best played with other people, right? Yeah. Like, you're never going to sit there and play by yourself. I shouldn't say never, but you're not going to play for too long.
Unless you're
there by yourself doing like the AI.
If you're an achievement grinder, you might. But aside from that, you're probably not.
So I think this whole like open world aspect gives it a lot more playability to like the single player versus like the party style player, like you were saying, where you're playing with a bunch of people and you're kind of passing around the controllers and just having fun shooting the shit, you know, where it's more of a social experience.
Do you think so? The social experience aspect of like what I kind of what you're saying with me. What killed the console for me was like not having people come over any longer. Do you think them trying to lean more into the online experience with potentially making races bigger, the scale of the map bigger to allow more racers on the map to build more of an online audience?
I think they need to lean more into the online experience because that's basically what like Xbox and PlayStation is building their success off of. Like most games that come out now, like all your big games, they're all focused on the online experience.
Somebody told me that they're gonna introduce prox chat into Mario Kart.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah. It always does, yeah.
Because while you say this may be for all ages, right? Like it's still a majority younger audience, I feel like, that would be playing it. That would own a Switch and be playing it online.
Yeah, and you're gonna have the dude playing like Mario Kart.
Like that's what you call it? I called it drunk driver.
Either way, yeah, you know. But like it's playing some variation of a Mario Kart drinking game. Yeah. Who's like 10 races deep with like a 4-year-old crashing into him.
I need you to explain the rules of Mario Kart to make sure it's the same as drunk driver now.
I don't know that I know but I know if you lose, you drink. Like there's just a million different things like that. Like
so drunk driver for me, it was basically just Everybody had
you
the
had to
same
finish.
drink.
Oh, I know your rules. You have to finish
exactly.
the beer before the end of the race, but you can only drink while you're not
driving.
Yes.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, I've seen it. I guess my thing is like I've seen it different variations on Mario Kart drinking games. I've seen it on Mario Party as well.
Yeah.
But introducing prox chat with kids and stuff like that can become a dicey proposition. But it's also on your parents to be like disable that function.
Yes and no, right? Like, sure, like parental controls are definitely like partly to blame, but like you got to think like who is Nintendo marketing to, right? Like, sure, like they have like the nostalgic adults that they bring back these old titles and they're trying to get them, but I still feel like they present themselves mostly as like a family or like kid-friendly console.
Yeah.
So like I feel like their online platform needs to protect that too.
I have to imagine though, because like Call of Duty would have been like Call of Duty introduced this a couple of years ago now, right? Like proximity
Do they
chat.
have Call of Duty on the Switch?
No, but my point was going to be this: of all audiences and all communities, that is a toxic like online community in our heads, especially because we were part of building that like online toxic community, right?
MW2, I put my hours in.
Like if they were able to make that a sustainable thing where there is a very large range of age that plays Call of Duty and they've made it able to be played and not be like, I think
there's a very big difference though. Mario Kart rated E for everyone. Call of Duty M for mature.
No, you're right. Because I was going to say the one thing I want to give Call of Duty credit for though is like I think that they are very quick to be able to ban for people who break their terms. They won't ban anybody for cheating on their fucking games, but they can get people out for saying some hurtful stuff real quick. Like
Rocket League recently brought back voice chat, right? And one of the things it says, and I don't usually read like the license agreements or whatever, but it showed in pretty big letters, like right there before you accept to turn it on, was they were going to save like the last 10 minutes of your voice chat recording on their servers for if you get reported, they play it back off of that and ban you or whatever.
Yeah, find what's in there. Yeah, because like I remember when they rolled out the proximity chat with Call of Duty, like there was a whole code of conduct redo that they put out where it was like, you're agreeing to this, we're going to be very quick to get you out of here.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, it was exciting. I thought it was exciting at least seeing the Mario Kart changes. It's cool thinking about a game, again, that came out when I was a kid and seeing that that's had the longevity that it does and that they're still, like this is a change that like is an innovation to that game that I think was like welcomed, right? Like it's a game that's been around long enough that it doesn't seem like it's doing it as a gimmick or a use to get themselves back. Like I think they could have trotted out the same game and been fine.
I see this as exactly that, right? Like they're trying to innovate and give you something new rather than just re-releasing the same game with minor differences, right?
Yeah.
Also, there's just something to like an open world game that just makes it more intriguing as far as like there's an exploration aspect to it and you just kind of can make your own.
You're going to get me for the initial curiosity of what it has as potential. Like Mario, I think, did that recently. I think that's been the thing with the more recent Zelda games too. And I also am like a professed not a big open world guy because I don't like grinding games so much. And like, I think when things are open world, I like pretty linear shit. Like I like my single player games to be.
There needs to be a good balance for those type of open world games where it doesn't feel like repetitive or like you're doing a lot of the same because
I feel tedious. Like sometimes the missions in open world games lose interest to me because there's too many small side things that aren't that interesting, like bringing this from point A to point B, or like deliver a message, or go fix this thing, and you're like, I'm
games
over
that have done that really well has been like Grand Theft Auto, for instance, right? Like you play through the story mode of Grand Theft Auto, and sure, it's drive here, shoot this, do that, but they do a really good job of like adding in those little like nuances that are like specific to each level.
So like the only thing that feels a bit misleading is the title open world. I guess like we have to see more of it because really all we watched was
it didn't seem
like a circuit race idea, and it reminded me a bit more of the Need for Speed game layout of an open world title. And like there actually was a Need for Speed open world game, I'm pretty sure, but like
there's a bunch of Need for Speed open world
I guess
games.
Underground,
Most Wanted,
Spacebound, right, or something like that. Not
Spacebound. Unbound.
Okay.
That's the most recent one, I think.
Yeah,
right?
like that. Those ones I think are open world.
Yeah,
but like going back to the one I was talking about with you, that it feels like the movie is most based upon is the race across the United States, and like,
which is I'm pretty sure it's Need for Speed: The Run.
Like the way that this seems is you pick you do a circuit in Mario Kart. you pick your 4 races, but really what it is you're picking the route that you'll take across their map to get to those 4 locations.
I imagine it's similar to like previous Mario Karts where when you do like the tournament style ones, it just has like those preset like locations together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like grouped.
Yeah.
So it's probably
so
similar
you
to
can
that.
only pick certain circuits. Like you can't just like.
I don't think you could pick like, oh, I want to do this circuit, that circuit, that
but then
circuit, that
it's
circuit.
not like that would feel true open world to me though. Is if you could manipulate
But I'm
the
saying
races
that
to
holds
be
true for like the tournament style. You could probably still do whatever fucking races you want.
It just but I almost think that like it's more fun. You're probably right in the way they actually did it, but like in my mind, if you sell yourself on the idea of open world, right? And the idea is that you have all these different races around the world, but you have to go from point A to point B to point C. Like I should be able to create that route. Like I could make a crazy long race if I wanted to that goes from this point to all the way over here to up to this corner to down to that one.
Maybe that's something that breathes even more life into this game. Is
like
down
that
the
feels
line
cool.
giving you like
Like,
user created maps and stuff.
Yeah, like that. Just like you're creating your own path around the map based through these 4 races that you're going to do, and you're able to eat like different races. You're going to see different environments and stuff like that. Like that seems cool to me. And I will say that for what it's worth, in the 2 races that we saw, like or 3 races, I appreciated that it was 3 different environments. Like it was, and it was moving. Like it wasn't that it just like. You started here and then all of a sudden you were on a different map. It was that you saw the transition from the mapping.
The one thing is like, I feel like it was explained to us a little wrong because they in the video showed like, oh, like, you know, we finished this race and now we're driving to our next race. But did you notice like between the drive from race to race, it was like, there was no like deviation to the path, right? Like it wasn't like you could take a wrong turn or like there was options for like left or right. So it didn't feel very open world.
I definitely remember that in like Forza Horizon feeling of like I could be trying to go to this or like here, but I ended up like this route just seemed cooler over here and I ended up driving off in some weird direction or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I hope the game ends up having that and maybe just the small portion of it we saw was different, but
can we talk racing games for two more seconds before we get off video games here? So we're talking Forza Horizon. The Crew was the other one, right? Which one's better?
Forza Horizon. Better physics.
How many have you put in decent time on both of them?
I've put in tons of time on Forza. I've put in a little bit of time on The Crew.
Is one, because the premise of both is that you were on like the actual United States when you were racing, right? Like, does one do that aspect of it better than the other as far as like the simulation of driving through the US?
The Crew is the only one that actually does that because Forza, basically they pick like a city.
Got it.
Or sometimes they'll pick like a state or whatever. I don't know. It's not the whole United States though.
But even like, so there's Forza Horizon, but there's also Forza
Motorsport.
Okay. And that's the one that's just the actual racing one.
Yeah. Motorsport is just actual racetracks. But Forza Horizon, like I think like the very first one was like Colorado. They had one that was Spain. Like they're different cities, but they're not.
Spain was the Xbox One release game, right?
Maybe.
Because I remember being at work and this was when what came out at the same time as the Xbox One. And I'm not talking about like the One X shit. I'm talking about when Xbox One.
Yeah,
which PlayStation console was out at the same time? PS3?
PS4.
PS4. Okay. Yeah, it would have been. It had to have been because I wouldn't have been working during PS3. And it's just we had a wall, and it was like one side was the PlayStation wall, one side was the Xbox wall. And I remember the game that they had when Xbox first rolled out. It was because like Killer Instinct was another launch title, way too bloody. You couldn't really put it for anybody to be able to play. So it was Forza was like the big title, and I just remember like it was the same map over and over again. It was like there was like a bridge that you had to drive over into like a big opening. And we were driving through a city though through it, and the thing that would sell itself on is the way the lighting would change, like bouncing off of the car and stuff like that. Yeah. Like they were just really pushing. Like you could see when you were driving over that bridge would go from you were in the shadows to like the light was cutting through, so you could see the reflection hitting off the top of the car and shit. It was really cool. But yeah, I just remember like that. Those games were always used for any of the launch titles to push.
Like the graphical
what you're capable of doing on the new console. The Crew just seems like a cool idea. I think anything that's like, hey, we scanned like the actual like this place in your.
The problem is The Crew was never a scan.
No,
No.
So everything's just
because remember they're trying to encompass the entire U.S.
So
they didn't give you the entire U.S.
Is the issue that they would just be bland? It would be bland. So you'd have like a city setup that didn't feel. It felt like
you'd
a generic
have like
city.
weird transitions.
Yeah, it'd be like generic city, a whole bunch of nothing. So it didn't feel lived in it because it's like rural. When most cities, states like Massachusetts isn't farmland outside.
And it almost
of Boston.
made the cities feel small too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because like basically, it was still a pretty sizable map. Don't let me take that away from them, right? Like, but to drive like coast to coast from like West Coast to East Coast or vice versa would be like maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's that's not like. Although I think I would enjoy this too because we're both like simulation game people. Yeah. Like the idea of a game that's actually, and I don't know what it would take to build out
American Truck Simulator
is like that accurate. Yeah.
So American Truck Simulator, basically they release each state as a DLC pack.
So if you were to buy all 50 states, how much money would you have to spend?
They don't have all 50 states out yet.
Okay. So maybe we've talked about this in the past because me and you have talked about Truck Simulator before, but like what happens if you get to a state that's not done yet?
I forget.
Okay.
Or I don't think I haven't played a ton of time on it. I've watched more streams of it than I've actually played it.
Okay.
But I do know that right now they only have like, because basically they're starting from like Cali out from the west to the east, right? And I think they're only like a third of the way. And if you buy all those map packs that they have right now, it's like $200. So imagine now if you try to buy the entirety of the US, like.
But at that level of detail has got to be crazy.
It's definitely like pretty in depth.
The thing that I think is the funniest in that game is the amount of times I'm at work and I see somebody pull in the wrong side of the parking lot where like the big trucks aren't meant to be able to like make the turns, like they're just too tight, and watch them like go through the pretzel of like, how can I try to get through this? Because they'll always try the forward way first. So it's always like, I'm trying to get over to this side of the building. So I'm going to try and pull up, find out I can't make it, back up, try a different one. And then you watch them have to back up and they get back to like the entrance of where they came from to try and figure out if they can go back out the way they came. It's just like, that's the funniest part of that game would be to me, is like I accidentally pulled in the wrong parking lot and now I have to try and get back out.
I actually, now talking about it, want to play that game a little bit more. It's fun just as a way to like just disconnect and just drive.
Because that's such a realistic thing too. If you're going to really scan the cities, that I'm inevitably going to be the dude who I'm going to lose my payload because the back of my truck I drove under a bridge that was too low.
Yep. No, that's
I need the Garmin Diesel GPS. Tell me where not to go. Okay, let's get into some movies actually on this one for 2 seconds. Well, we have the taste test. We're going to talk a lot of movie, one particular one. I want to talk to you about a Working Man, because you decided to, jump on that grenade for us, to lay down on that sword.
Really what it came down to was we have A-List, and I was like, you know what? Like, I got to keep this subscription being worth it for me. So I was like, let me go watch a movie. And honestly, it was between that and one other movie, and I really wanted to watch the other movie, but the times just didn't line up.
There's only been one movie. It's the horror movie that's out right now.
Yeah, Hell of a Summer.
Yeah, it was the only one that I was like eyeing, that I kept going, and like same deal. It was always like an hour later than I would have than I could have done.
Well, because like it was like I got out of work last night at 6, and I was like, all right, cool, I can catch a Working Man at, I think it was like 6:45 or 7. Or I'd have to wait till almost 8 o'clock to watch Hell of a Summer, and I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, there was Screen. I meant to text you about this yesterday. Do you see Screen Unseen is everywhere?
What do you mean everywhere? They do it in all the theaters.
It was in every theater yesterday.
Huh?
Yeah, Braintree, South Bay, Framingham.
I wonder what it was last night, because my problem with Screen Unseen now is I don't think I'll go unless I get a narrowed set of predictions on Reddit.
So I had seen 2 options. I'd seen Drop, and I had seen the Rami Malek movie, the Amateur.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Those were the 2. But then that somebody was like, it's not the Amateur because like that's technically already out, even though it's not in like a major release right now. But that was like, to me, it was that's even more reason.
Last minute they changed the rating too. It was like originally the Screen Unseen was going to be an R rating, then I think they dropped it to PG or whatever.
PG or PG-13.
Yeah. But the main reason I won't just go Unseen now is because I think like 2 Screen Unseens ago or whatever, it was like some political movie or some shit, and I was like, I definitely don't want to get caught up in that and waste my time.
Yeah, I mean the last one was good for us though, right?
Yeah.
The last ship.
Yeah.
Not the last ship, last breath. Okay, so The Working Man, you ended up seeing that. We went on like a 20-minute tangent a couple weeks ago, at least I did, telling you all the reasons why there was red flags for this movie to me, and that like Jason Statham's on a dangerous route right now where his movies could very quickly turn into throwaway, we've seen it before, and it was already maybe a little bit like that, but like it was enjoyable still. Where are we at? We can we're free to spoil this too. I assume you guys are cool with that. If you're not,
gonna spoil it.
Whatever, sorry.
But I mean, let's just say you were right. This definitely was very much a throwaway movie. Like, I didn't go into this expecting it to be a great movie, right? But I expected to at least have enjoyable action, like Beekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Not by any means a great movie, but like the action was very fun and like inventive, and like,
it was at least it was a breeze of a couple hours.
Yeah,
like, an hour and 45 minutes of just like pretty consistent entertainment.
Yeah, this wasn't that.
No. So what do you think this movie was trying to be?
The problem is it's not too far off from what The Beekeeper was. It's like, I'm some retired fucking super soldier or whatever. You pissed off someone I care about. Now I'm going to kill everybody you know. Like, basically, that's all it was.
So what was the drawback of it? Is it that it felt like the same, or was it that the action wasn't as good?
The action wasn't as good. And honestly, like, I find myself not to be as much of a critic as you, but like the acting was just so fucking bad that I was like, why am I watching this in a theater right now?
Yeah. From him or the people surrounding him?
Surrounding.
Because usually at least a good thing with a person like that is
you get the same thing every time.
He knows what he is. So he's going to act
like him. The same thing every time.
It's like Liam Neeson. Like Liam Neeson for the past 7 years has done the Taken role in almost every movie for the most part. Like some nuance to it, but like mostly done similar stuff. But they are believable in that. But it's the people around them make it.
It's the people around him that it was just like, wow, you guys are like letting me down.
Any recognizable people to you?
Fuck. There were a couple, and I'm terrible.
You don't need to tell me the names. Like, I was just wondering if, like, what have you seen them in before? Do you remember?
The dude from End of Watch, the Hispanic dude.
Yeah. Okay. From Ant-Man as well.
Yeah.
Spotlight.
So he was in it, but like he had, even though like
Michael Pena.
Yes, that's his name, Michael Pena. And like I guess he was fine, right? But like the problem is he's only in a very small portion of the movie.
Yeah.
So like the people you get the most from are the worst actors.
He's like he's a bit comedy guy, I feel like, for movies. Like they know they can get him in there to make jokes for, 5 scenes of the movie, and
they didn't use him at any in any comedic way. No, like
was he a friend?
So he was basically Jason Statham's character's boss. He owns like this construction company. Jason Statham was one of his working men. And then boss's daughter gets kidnapped, and he's like, I know you used to be in the military. I need you to like help me out and bring my daughter home. And he's like, I don't do that anymore.
Can I ask you for a comparison? I need to know if you've seen this movie. Have you seen Walking Tall with The Rock?
I feel like this is going to be a similar situation as Push, where I tell you no because I can't remember. Can you
anything, but I probably have seen it. Up what it looks like? He comes back from war to his old town, and the guy who's a bad guy in like every movie you've ever seen owns like a casino that's like peddling drugs and shit. And it leads to somebody like his relative or somebody's getting either overdosing on drugs or getting killed, and he then is like, I need to take back the town kind of deal. It just feels like it's a similar feel to Working Man.
I guess, yeah.
And if you look at the cover of Walking Tall, is he not carrying like a 2x4 in his hand or something like that?
I think a baseball bat.
Oh, it's a baseball bat. That was a 2x4.
It might be a 2x4.
You don't remember this movie though?
No.
It's a great movie. This is peak Rock, dude. Like that's like the rundown.
I've definitely heard the title.
He had like
before,
the rundown,
and
like this was like the next one after the rundown. It was right up there,
Okay.
So it's a do not recommend though.
I think if I watched it at home on streaming, I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, it's fine, background noise, whatever, blah blah blah. But like to go to the theater to watch this, fuck no.
Like to try and like you're like look at your phone and you're like, fuck, I still have an hour left.
Dude, this is a 2-hour movie.
That's insane. This is one, like, crazy enough. Like, I'm in the same boat where the past couple weeks, I'm like, I haven't been going to the movies. I need to, like, I should go see some. Not need to, but like
I want to make my subscription and paying for
yeah,
it.
like I want to get out. I enjoy going to the movies. I enjoy seeing different kinds of movies. I'll just go see something. It doesn't need to be great. But I kept looking at that and knowing there's so little out right now that's getting a lot of showings, and I'm like, I don't want to see it. And it's probably the only thing, to your point, that like when I got out of work was really timing up consistently. Because honestly, I would have gone and seen Snow White if it had it timed up on a certain night, just because I was like, I know it's bad, but I want to, out of curiosity, want to
see how
it.
bad.
Yeah, I want to check it out. Like I'm not against.
You know what's crazy too is like, I know that movie's getting a lot of like anti-Zegler hate.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a religious issue too. When you think anti-Zegler,
yeah, right. But of all the reviews I've heard from like people that have watched it, they've all told me she's the best part of the movie. Everything else sucks.
I've heard Gal Gadot is like atrocious.
Yeah,
but the curiosity gets me to be like, I want to see that. Like there is a point with this movie that it's so hated that I feel like it's a disservice that I'm not checking it out. But I've kind of come to grips with the idea that when it comes to Disney for free in like 3 weeks, I'll just watch it then and I'll be fine to be like, this is really bad. So I kept looking, and like that Hell of a Summer has been the only thing, and it like even that I'm like, I don't know if I
that at least looks like campy and fun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it looks like one of those things where you go in with low expectations, but it might
be easy
you might
watch,
get some
whatever
laughs out of it, easy watch. Yeah.
So I mean, right now it's just I still think I'll probably try and see something before Warfare or with Warfare. I need to get at least 2 things in because I feel like I haven't gone in a while. But Warfare is definitely the one.
I mean, Warfare 100%. We got Sinners coming up too.
Yep, and then we got our ticket, or I got my ticket to Thunderbolts.
Okay. We talked about it. I didn't book it yet, but yeah.
I hope it got bought. I hope that shit got bought.
Yeah. All right.
Real quick, also before the taste test, the Accountant 2 trailer came out, and I don't really care too much about talking about the Accountant 2 trailer as much. You didn't know that The Accountant was a movie?
No.
That's so weird, dude.
I was so unaware of it. It was completely off of my radar.
That's so weird to me. How?
But then, like, you told me, like, Ben Affleck's autistic in this movie, and I was like, wait, I feel like I've heard something about that maybe, but, like...
Anna Kendrick is in it. He's in it, and John Berthold's in the first one. Not, like, heavily, but he's in it. That's just like, I was like, it doesn't ever really shock me anymore, but like when you were like The Accountant 2, I didn't know there was an Accountant 1. I'm like, dude, this is a movie that weirdly shouldn't be getting a sequel. Like the first one's not. I never came away from the first one and was like, this movie's going to get a sequel, or this movie should get a sequel, or I'd like to see a sequel to this movie. This is a movie that went like 3 years and nobody asked for it, and then all of a sudden they were like, we're going to do an Accountant 2, and everybody seems like they were like,
okay.
I mean, all right, I guess, you know. So the trailer is fine. The first movie wasn't like isn't a lot about him and John Berthold, so it'll be cool to get those two together. I don't know if I like the autistic bit so much. Like it feels weird. It feels like awkward at points.
Honestly,
and it's
I didn't even get autism until you told me after we watched the trailer.
So what do you think it was?
I just thought he was doing a weird accent.
But the problem is, and I watched this thing recently about the way autism is displayed. I think I talked about this on the podcast with you and Dave at some point. Yeah. I had watched a video about the way autism is displayed in movies.
We did talk about this, yeah.
And I'm watching this after seeing that, and I'm like, this is the dude who's just like told this is how, he watched like an autistic person and decided this is how they act. It's weird.
There's no umbrella for it, though. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's like a weird contrast too, because like it's like when he's in the social scenes, he's being socially awkward, but like not awkward, just like robotic and says weird shit. And then when he's in the action scenes, he seems like a pretty coherent dude. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it just felt like he was doing a weird accent. Like I don't know. At points of it, I was like, is he doing an accent? Because I feel like it's switching up, but it's like. Some points it was like, is he a James Bond fan? Like,
I just don't remember it in the first movie being nearly that pronounced. I do need you to watch the first movie. Not like this isn't a rush, but it is an assignment. You do have to watch the first movie.
You know I hate homework, right?
I mean, we can wait till the Accountant 2's coming out and we can just run the taste test, but
anticipation of homework is even worse.
There we go. Speaking of, do you have it?
Do you? I know I have it.
After this week, I feel like I have it.
Actually, yeah, no, that's
Certainly,
a valid point.
Like
yeah.
Certainly, I feel like I have
Got it back. It's been gone for a while.
This is the fun thing about like.
Oh, by the way, taste.
Yes. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, ask a friend. This is the fun thing to me in a way about doing this is that like most movies are going to be this thing where I haven't watched something in a while and maybe I've only watched it a handful of times. Maybe I've liked it or disliked it.
So you had seen this one before,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So like I could feel a multitude of ways about a lot of different movies that I've seen, right? And then we're also going to always get the perspective of you've just never seen a movie. So
we're always going to get that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's this perspective. So 1917, for me personally, is a movie that I've always felt kind of underwhelmed by, I guess would be the way I'd put it, until this point, that maybe I started at the wrong time. Maybe I had the wrong expectation, but it was always a movie that got heaped a lot of praise that like I appreciated the cinematics of it, like the cinematography.
The cinematography and the set design were insane. Like those were like the first notes I put in my phone. I was like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, I'll say this was a different watch for me.
Okay.
Like this is a watch that I found myself 100%
more shit.
Well, I just found myself 100% immersed. And the reason I wanted to watch this, I guess to set it up, is that watching the trailer for Warfare, I can feel the grittiness. You can feel the war in that movie. Like you feel like you're thrown into it. The explosions, like the dire nature of it. Like I appreciate in a really good war movie when you can execute on that feeling.
Yeah.
And the thing that I did remember from 1917, and one of the reasons why I suggested that we watch this, is that initial opening of the movie where they're walking through the trenches and how you can just immediately feel the dirtiness of it, and like how it's like you're very quickly like you feel the movie because you're walking behind somebody over somebody's shoulder.
Choices. You feel like you're walking with them.
Yeah.
At a point, I even like almost likened it to like playing Call of Duty. Like as stupid as it sounds, right? It's just like that feeling of like being there in the moment, like almost like I was in control in some way.
Well, 100%, and that's one of the conversations I wanted to have. Do you have a favorite scene? This is all like anything in the taste test is a spoiler, potential 3, 2, 1 spoiler. Yeah. This movie's like 7 years old, 8 years old or something, 4 years old. I don't know, old. We can talk about it. But I do want to know, like, did you have a favorite scene out of the first watch? Like one that stood out or anything that you can think of?
I don't know if it was necessarily a favorite scene, but I did find myself enjoying, again, like the way they designed the set for like the initial like walk through the trenches up to the point where they're walking through like the barbed wire and like you're seeing like the bodies everywhere, and like then when they get to like the little like farmhouse and you see like even the dead dog, and I was like, holy shit, like they really like there was a lot of attention to detail.
The scene that I think each watch is the one what you said it felt like Call of Duty, and the reason I ask is like
when he's running to the major.
No, I think so much of it feels like a video game because of the perspective. Like you feel like you're very much on the journey with the person, and it's by design. And we watched like some behind the scenes stuff, and I think they did as much to walk us through how they built that for us. We can talk about that, but the scene that for me is the most like that I like the most because it felt the most like a video game. No. The sniper scene, like. The scaling the side of the bridge and getting like the shots at the hands and stuff I could see myself in it like the Uncharted games and like stuff like that, like having that exact way that they were filming it. It was playing out and then he jumps down and it's like looking over the peering over the thing and seeing the sniper shooting down on you. It's like we've played those games before, and it felt like I was like in that for a minute, you know? And it's like, okay, now he's ducked down for a second. It's time for me to move. And I get into the stairwell, and then, you know, like it's like all of that stuff, and you're right in it with them the whole way along. As far as the way it was made, and like you said, like the attention to detail is like so much of what I think maybe this was the first time I'm more critically watching it too, that made me expressly watch out for more of it and got me more immersed in it, is like, they had that's all real. Like they went through and built those trenches. Like they dug out those trenches. They figured out, like they made the ground wet and muddy. Like
for me, and I'm sorry to cut you off. Like I think we're both pretty excited about like just how this movie looks. And like for me, one of the crazier parts was not only the attention to detail, but the fact that they almost didn't really shove it in your face, right? No. Like there were points where they like highlighted it's right, like when they're walking through the mud and stuff, and like it's like, wow, like you guys really set this up. But like there's also just like shit you like notice like in the background, just like speckled in, that it's like to even have those details in and be like major details as far as like building like the whole like immersion of the scene is just crazy to me.
And so the director Sam Mendes talked about this. I want to talk about a lot of what he talked about in that behind the scenes. It was really interesting to hear. But as far as the construction, like he was like talking about filming it, and I forget the gentleman who helped him make this, but they basically both were the visual designers of like the whole movie. And it was like, how do we tell the story to where everything appears in front of a moving camera? Whereas generally in a movie, you can tell the story by pointing the camera exactly at what you want it to see.
Oh yeah, because he did say something about it was a constantly moving camera.
Yeah, well, it's a one-shot movie, so like, dude, the handoffs from character to character, because even though it's like it heavily is focused on one main person, but there is times where there's more than one person who's in the frames, and it's able to they're spinning the camera and changing the perspective focus from this character to this character as they, or like the camera spinning. The scene where the one that's always visually stood out up until this watch to me, and I think it's because it's in the trailer and everything, but it's the plane scene where the plane's crashing on them.
Oh, yeah.
And you see it go down under the hill, and then all of a sudden it comes right back up and crashes. That scene, though, when they're in the barn, it's like 360ing, and it's on him, and then the camera's 360ing to kind of looking at empty field, and it's him getting ready to walk out the door. So now you're behind his focus as he's getting to walk through the door, to then see in the far focus. Up until this point, you've seen the plane flying here, here, here. And like to your point, it's not forward focus. They're just talking and having a conversation, but all of this other stuff is surrounding them and happening, that it then lines up to where the camera turns and they're getting ready to walk, that the thing in the background's made its way here.
Yeah.
So it's more in the focus. It's just like incredibly done in the way that it was paced. Did you see on Netflix, there's a show right now called Adolescence?
Yes, I actually just added it to my list because I do want to watch it.
Are you familiar with it at all?
Not outside of like reading the little excerpt and watching the trailer.
So I might be wrong in the amount of episodes, but I think it's 7 episodes. It's 4 episodes.
So four 1 hour long episodes.
Okay, so they're all one shots. So those episodes are all one shot episodes.
Oh shit!
Like, so just filmed like this is.
Yeah.
And they talked about the way that they had to film it. And so basically you would do one full day of rehearsals, and then you do 1 day of filming. So you literally rehearse the entirety of they said it, they likened it to doing a play.
Okay.
So like you're basically just reading through all of the stuff the first day to have like your points down. Exactly, because it's all timing predicated. So it's them going over where you should be at certain points where you're talking and things like that. And then the next day they come in and film it. But the nature of that could be that you film 25 minutes and then somebody screws up. And they talked about this in the behind the scenes of this. You might remember when they were showing the scene of him walking through the trenches like you were talking about to get to the major, was it, or captain, whatever, to tell him to not proceed with the,
I think it was Major
fight.
Mackenzie, right?
Yeah, but he was talking about how like, yeah, you could be filming that and like somebody screws up, and they have to decide to keep going, and you have to decide if you're going to keep going and work around that, or are you going to stop and restart the whole fresh thing from start. So you could get 20 minutes into something. If somebody fucks up something, you could have to go back to square one and redo everything, which is even more interesting when you think about this movie and how they talked about in the behind the scenes, the lighting, like how everything's outdoors,
everything's natural light. Yeah.
And like they had to wait till times with clouds because that was the best way that they could contain the continuity of the movie, was to have clouds as their backdrop predominantly.
Yeah.
But then gets the thing you were talking about that I thought from watching the behinds was the way that they make these things in miniatures always amazes me, dude.
Yeah.
Like, so they're showing the way that they were going to design the light design for flares lighting the room, and it's just they build out a miniature of the city. And it's like, I don't even know what it is, but it's like, yeah, these like the lights that are flying overhead that are literally directing the pathway of what a flare light would. So like it's like science mixed with art, mixed with all this shit, and it's like always mind blowing to me that they like take these things and are able to then
blow it up.
Yeah. And even the fact that like for what I grew up on, a lot of those old action movies were filmed with like miniatures. Like that's what you were using to do big action sequences was like miniatures and shit like that. Like that's crazy. The Sam Mendes thing though. So can you look up what he's done? I believe he's Baby Driver, right? Or no, that's
I was gonna say the name sounds familiar.
Is he Baby Driver? Either way, I think so. He did Bond. He said he was coming off of Bond though when he did this. So he did the Bond movies. Maybe he didn't do Baby Driver, but he definitely did the Bond movies. So he's coming off the Bond movies and had been looking for a new thing to be able to do, like a fresh idea.
I realize that's why the name sounds familiar. The like game we used to play and we had to figure out like something by director.
Yeah, he was the one. I know.
Yeah,
he was the top one we struggled to get for a while, and we got it because of Bond. So he was struggling to find his next project to work on and couldn't find anything from the scripts that he was being sent. And then somebody was like, dude, you should come up with your own idea. So he said at the time he was interested in his grandfather or something who was in World War I, who had to deliver a letter. And so like that's where it started with the idea of what if you had to get across a war-torn World War I to deliver a letter, and what would that look like? And then he decided like I don't want to use two recognizable faces because I want people to be able to be immersed in the journey and not have any preconceived stuff. And I think that's interesting because we've been talking about this recently on the podcast of how like a person can change like your perspective on like a way a movie is because you might not be able to see past that person's portrayal. And like that was by design that they picked two people that weren't very recognizable actors so that they like you were just into the story, not so much who was in the journey itself. I thought it was interesting how quickly it became a one-person story though, and that's something that I think always catches me off guard with this movie is the decision to take out the best friend. Like as the first time watching the movie and getting to that point, what was your feelings going through like that whole sequence?
Well, first it was why like you're in a war against the Germans. Why are you trying to like save him? Like, and then to immediately turn it into he's been stabbed and even the whole am I dying? And he's like, yeah. I
think there's always that moment in a lot of these movies. I was watching Fury recently, and that's a lot of. Have you seen that?
No.
So Fury's crazy. It's a crazy war movie. It all takes place basically in one tank. It's star-studded cast. You've got Brad Pitt, John Bernthal, Shia LaBeouf, Logan Lerman, and Michael Pena, all in it. And like basically they get stuck in a last stand situation where their tank breaks down, and they have these war troops coming at them. But the whole build-up in this movie,
maybe I have seen Fury.
You might have. It's a pretty popular movie, relatively recent, and it's a big cast. So the all the way building up to this point though, it's like Logan Lerman's character was not a guy who was trying to go to the military for war. He was like drafted in, but he was never supposed to see battle. So he shies away when there's these times where he has to kill somebody who's on the opposite side. And the whole thing is Brad Pitt's character like trying to break him to understand that like if you don't get okay with the fact that you're gonna have to kill those people,
they're gonna kill you first.
They're gonna kill you. They're gonna kill us, and you've fucked everything. And like the whole point up to that is breaking that idea. And I think that that's where it's kind of natural going back to 1917 that like just because you're in war doesn't mean that everybody's a killer.
I get what you're saying.
And like the human side of a guy just crashed his plane. He's alone. There's two of us. So there's already a safety in numbers that you feel that you've let your guard down to a certain level, and then you're trying to help them. They almost just died. That you would think on a human level that they wouldn't see you as an aggressor or an enemy. So that's where I guess, like, it's still, I 100% agree that the thing of, like, I would never do that. But I think mentally, and you've seen it depicted in movies.
It's being human, yeah. And honestly, like, at first I was like, damn, like, why kill him so early? But, like, I think it makes a lot of sense for at least the progression of the story, right? Is, like, you get to see, like, a flip in the other character where it's almost like, before he didn't really have a sense of duty. He hated being there. You know what I mean? He was like, why'd you pick me to come along with you? And it was the whole thing about I hate going home because it's the idea that I have to come back anyways.
And then even you think to the scene in the mine of how he escapes the mine. Like he wasn't able to do that by himself. He was literally led out of the mine.
Yeah.
by somebody blind by the other guy. So now he's gone from literally being walked to safety by a person to
now holding them in his arm.
Yeah, and like he's got to face the rest of this journey that he already didn't want, to your point, on his own, because you have that whole scene when they get out of the mine of like, why am I here? Like, I didn't ask for this. You always get me into this shit.
But I do love like how it makes you care about the journey a lot more, because now it's like, now I understand his drive. Like, that was your friend, regardless of if you want to do this or not. That was your friend, and he died for this, and like, you don't want it to be for nothing. So now you're like, I got to get there.
It makes you appreciate also when you get to the end of the movie that so much of it is him. The story is about him getting the message to save all those people, basically, to stop them from walking into an ambush and all of that.
But the most important to him was saving the brother.
Well, it's like getting to the brother to tell him, like, the brother's safe, and to save the brother because you didn't want him to get led into the ambush. But like when you finally get it, it's like such a soft and quiet moment of like, because it makes you think a lot. I think because like, how would you just like?
I'd say a lot of the scenes of this movie felt very human rather than Hollywood.
Yeah,
that makes sense. You know what I
And
mean?
you understand it when you think of the sentiment of where the idea started was about his grandfather or something in the war. Like there was a personal thing that was drawing him to writing that story. So there's going to be a tenderness that you're going to like write that with, I feel like, too, you know, or produce it with, at least. And that human integrity is going to be there because you're seeing like a family element within it and everything too. And just in general, I think hindsight is 2020, and we can look back on those things and realize the brutality of like those wars, you know.
The other thing I like too is like it didn't suffer from like Hollywood timing for like at least like the final like deliverance of the letter, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when he comes out of the river and he comes to the guys and he's like, "Oh, we're the second Devons," and he's like, "Oh, thank God I made it to you guys," and he goes, I got to call off the attack. And he's like, "Oh, well, it already started. We're the third wave."
Yeah, we're already out there.
It's like, oh, shit. Like, he actually did get there late.
Well, and just like even, I love, I can't remember his name right now, but so right before the bridge where they reach he meets that group of soldiers that he gets in the vehicle with.
Yeah.
And like I forget the person in charge there's real life name. Great actor though.
Yeah.
Him just kind of being like, make sure people are present because some guys just love the fight,
yeah.
And like the subtlety of that, and then the payoff of it, of like the struggle to get into the room to just deliver the news, and
so
then
watch him almost get shot down when trying to deliver.
Yeah, and then they have Benedict Cumberbatch be the dude who turns around.
That was crazy,
like,
yeah.
And you're like, oh, fucking him? yeah. Like that was awesome though, because it's like such a small part, but it's a great reveal to be like, this is the guy we've been getting to. Yeah. This fucking Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. But yeah, the whole struggle to get there. Like, this is, I came away a significantly bigger fan after this go around than I think any other time I've watched it.
Okay.
It sounds like you're in the same camp.
I was immersed to I was locked in.
So I was going to ask you this with because the reason we watch it was with Warfare coming up. Warfare is based in the Iraq War. How many war movies, like, have you watched a lot of war movies in your life, do you think?
A fair
Rattle
amount,
off some that you've seen.
Behind Enemy Lines, Black Hawk Down,
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Ryan's Privates.
Have you seen Thin Red Line?
Haven't seen that one.
The Patriot.
Like
Mel Gibson. No, Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger.
Nah, I don't think so.
Holy shit, The Patriot's fucking incredible. How about
I've just never really been
Tears of the Sun?
Nope.
Okay. So you've mostly watched modern war movies. Like
I haven't ever really been big into war movies, really.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
I think I like to watch movies for one of two things. It's either comedy or relatability, and war movies just don't give me either of that. Of course, now I'm finding a different level of enjoyment in that, like level of immersion or like storytelling or whatever, but it just hasn't always been my thing.
Because I was gonna the thing I was trying to decide in my head is what style there, because there's like the World War I, World War II style war movie. Like this, like Saving Private Ryan, like stuff like that, or your more modern stuff like a Black Hawk Down that's, not like based in a more current era of warfare. And then like Warfare coming up being a more modern type of war. I was just wondering what kind I preferred more, because
I think I prefer more modern, but I guess it also depends what type of movie it is, right? Like this movie, like, even though it was like World War One period, for a large part of the movie, you didn't really feel the time period.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as like a negative either. I'm just saying like it was so focused on the story that I didn't care about like the technology they had or didn't have.
But like the things like the point A to point B and the travel and like that's what makes the immersion and makes this movie is all because of the time period. Because if that was filmed in modern times, you'd have different vehicles,
have a radio or something.
Yeah, different ways to communicate. Like those things are all because of its time, you know.
Yeah.
Like even like Saving Private Ryan to me is like, and I think for most people probably peak war movie, right?
Okay.
Like as perfect as you're gonna get in some ways, and a lot of it is like it's true and it's real, and you watch all this death and you watch how difficult it is, and you knowing it's real is where you say relatability. Like that stuff is what makes those movies relatable, is the realization that like this stuff it happened, and like these lives, like it seems in so many movies, like Marvel movies and so many movies that I've watched that are action movies, death seems so throwaway and seems so meaningless. But when you put it in perspective of war, and like that many deaths actually happened, whereas in like other movies that are not real, that many deaths happen, but it's meaningless, you know, in the grand scheme of things. How many times do you see a nuke almost get dropped on something in a movie, you know, or whatever it is, versus you watch something that's based on like World War II and storming the beach of Normandy, and you're like, no, like this is how people were getting fucking mowed down, and like this is relatable because like this is what people face today if they go to war or whatever it is. So like I think that's where I've always been able to be. You
and I view relatable in different definitions.
Yeah, like you say relatable in sense of what you could do yourself or where you could see yourself in.
More of what I could link to my own life experiences or whatnot.
Yeah, like I think realism is relatable, and like I'm never gonna go to war, and like thank you for the people who are willing to do those things, because you watch this stuff and it's like shit.
Yeah.
Like so many people who go to war could have nothing stories, but like so many people that you thought could have gone there and had nothing go on have had like could tell you some of the craziest shit in the world, you know? But so like I get really excited because I think that when modern war is done well, though, because when I was younger, I would say Black Hawk Down is the movie that stands out to the most as the first war movie that I watched and was like, this is incredible, you know. And I loved Josh Hartnett at the time, like having Orlando Bloom kind of pop up as like a young actor. Like there was a bunch of recognizable names, and at that time in my life, like what I had seen in the movies, it was just like, this is Hollywood war movie, you know. And I didn't appreciate like Saving Private Ryan until I was probably a little bit older. So it's like that's the pinnacle to me, but I think my taste is also modern war movies, even coming off of like Civil War last year, and like just the feeling of that.
Or even The Covenant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with that, like 1917 was fantastic. All it did was get me increasingly again excited for warfare. It makes me want to watch some other war movies too, which I think I'll be doing in the lead up. Maybe you can join me in that, Dante. Maybe you guys can join us as well too. Let us know. Did you check out 1917? What did you think? What are your thoughts on one shot movies and photography in movies? I want to watch more shit that has one shots. Like it's something that with Marvel, with Daredevil and Punisher, they both have got very popular for featuring those within the seasons of their shows. Was it On Bach has like a crazy scene up a staircase that they filmed that I've watched like the one shot get filmed because they had to do it so many takes, and like he was so gassed after having to do it so many times. That one's really cool. Let me know if there's any other stuff out there that I should be checking out that has great one shot cinematography in it. I want to see it. I'm jonesing for it.
Yeah, drop it down below.
Are you going to be getting? What you're curious just about the one shots?
Yeah.
Oh no, if you had other questions, because I had a question. Switch 2. Are you buying?
Oh no.
Mario Kart. Are you buying? What are your rules for drunk driver and/or Beerio Kart? What are the rules? What do you got for us out there? Should we get a Switch 2? Would you want to see us play some games on the Switch 2? Do you want to see us do a drinking game with Mario Kart?
Oh my god,
we could do it.
You want me versus Lenny, drunk driver? Let's go.
We could do that. That wouldn't be bad. And a Working Man. Did you get to the cinema? Probably not.
Don't.
Until next week, though. We didn't figure out a taste test.
I was going to tell you after we ended it and be like, hey,
dude,
we
don't
forgot
let me do
again.
that. Hold on. We'll do this in real time. So what do we have? Thunderbolts is the week after this.
Well, we got Sinners.
Oh, Sinners. Okay, I got a movie for us.
MBJ?
Yeah, so let's go. Let's do a vampire movie this week. You're going to watch this happen in real time, and with me not being able to overthink it, we're going to watch the movie. I believe it is called, so it's Ethan Hawke. This is the movie guesser game, while I'm pulling it up because I can't remember the name. It's the Ethan Hawke vampire movie. I believe it has the name Day in the
Daywalker
in the title. Why is this
Daybreak?
Hold on.
Point Break.
I'm on IMDb and it's
Dying Light. That's a video game.
Is it?
Yeah.
You were just gonna let this happen, huh?
Yeah, I was just
Daybreakers. That's the name. So
damn,
this week on the taste test, we're gonna watch Daybreakers. It looks like it is on Prime Videos, on the CW app, on Tubi. It's literally on a million different free apps, people. So you can check it out too. So that'll be a fun little vampire movie that we'll watch. So a little backstory since I've just thrown this on us in the moment. I have not watched this movie since it was in the movie theater. I remember it being pretty good. Ethan Hawke's fairly reliable for movies in general, I think. So we're going to give it a go. You don't know anything about it. I realize that. You're going to have to just try.
Okay.
You like it?
I hate that, actually. Yeah, sure.
Until next week, though, we bid you fale, Eddie,
Peace.
Bang, bang.
A skit.
For those with good taste.